If we lived in a true democracy right now, they would be coming out, they would be speaking with the public, they would be allowing for debate. We put it out there, we said we are open to a public debate. Silence from these people, absolute silence. So that's how we know. So we're going to be seeing more of these, there's no doubt about it. Also, I just want to mention before we move on to our speakers, a lot of you have read also that there is a mandate now going into place today on truckers. This is pretty serious, guys. This is pretty serious. This means that some estimates say up to half of the truckers in the US aren't jabbed, meaning they're not allowed to cross the border now with critical supplies. Food. Food. Where does our food come from in the winter? A lot of it's coming from south of the border, guys. So we're going to start seeing very likely shortages in the next coming weeks here. So I've said it, I've used the word many times. It is not an exaggeration. This is a war. This is a war that they're waging on us. It's calculated. They're working to create supply chain shortages. And the synchronized scripting is another thing we're seeing now with the leaders, Justin Trudeau, Joe Biden, Emmanuel Macron, Boris Johnson. They're starting to use language that's very dangerous language, calling unvaccinated people racist, misogynist, that we are a problem that must be dealt with. Do we tolerate these people? And now they're talking about putting taxes on us, a special tax for a non-compliance tax. Jason Kenney just said he's looking forward to seeing how successful this is in Quebec, and he's considering it here. So this is all out war that they're waging on us. And we don't have, bring it on. We don't have time to waste, guys. So Alberta's leading the charge. We're going to stand up. We're going to rise up against this. And we're not going to allow it to happen here, are we? So we're going to introduce our first speaker. We have 4 speakers today. Our first speaker is a lady named Alice. She's been coming for a long time to these rallies. Please welcome Alice to the stage.
An addict left alone is in bad company. What do addictions have to do with freedom rallies? Well, the word addiction is not just about drugs and alcohol. So stay with me as we connect the dots. The extreme loss of life, relapses, and overdoses that we have seen in this city is deeply disturbing. The last 22 months have created a perfect storm for addiction. Despite past myths around addiction, we now know that the gateway drug to any addiction is trauma and abuse, grief and loss. And let's not kid ourselves, we are in an abusive, traumatic, narcissistic relationship with our government, right? All of us, whether we feel it or not, know it or not, have undergone almost 2 years of shock and upheaval. There's 2 kinds of addiction, substance and behavioral. Both can cause death. An addiction can be defined as when I start, I can't seem to stop, or a self-soothing behavior used to suppress how I really feel and causes harm to me or others. We often get addicted because we have unplugged from that source or that higher power that some of us choose to call God. We were divinely designed and intelligently created for community and connection because we're human beings, right? Not QR codes. One of the tragic outcomes of 2020 was that many support groups either collapsed or went online. Zoom calls were never meant to be a substitute for in-person meetings. Finally, after a huge loss of sobriety and life, on November of 2020, it was declared that support groups were now an essential service. By then, the death and destruction had taken its toll. If you've tuned out because this doesn't apply to you, I invite you to think back for a moment. Look at what you did during lockdowns. What was your go-to? What soothed your soul in those early days of isolation when you had perhaps lost your routine, your purpose, or your community? Recovering from this state requires much inner work. It's about self-awareness, self-love, and maybe the most important thing is really just the willingness to find and maintain support networks. And because trauma is the prerequisite for addiction, I encourage you to begin to think about how to deal and clean out the trauma of the last couple of years. When our bodies are unregulated because of emotional wounding, we may feel exhaustion, confusion, sadness, agitation, or numbness. We may feel distant, detached, or losing a sense of concern about others. We may begin to lose hope for the future, be unable to concentrate, or make decisions. In order to understand how to regulate our bodies, I'm just going to share a very quick study that occurred after the traumatic episode of 9/11. Most remember the day that 2 planes crashed into the Twin Towers in New York City. Many people suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder, yet some did not. So what happened? Were the other people just more resilient? Well, it turns out that people who were stuck in the stairways that day suffered enormously. However, there was a group of people whose symptoms were much less severe. And here's the reason. People who were able to run out of the building were met by people who were running towards them. In that moment, they were hugged and comforted as they both ran away from danger. As they ran, they told their stories to one another. And this was the group who suffered less symptoms. In those crucial moments, these people, perhaps without even knowing it, did something that was natural and it worked. They moved their body, essentially shaking out the trauma from it and relaying their terrifying story to another person. We can learn a lot from this. 1 is that trauma is stored in our bodies. 2, we need people. We need people to hear our story. We need to be seen and heard in order to heal. So when you've had a rough day, go home and shake your body out. Instead of reaching for your favorite addiction, be it online shopping, gaming, eating, phone scrolling, controlling behavior, people pleasing, or whatever you use, try something different. Shake it out and talk it over. That's it. That connection that you feel in that moment to yourself and to the other person strengthens you physically and emotionally. So here's your first call to action. You are all invited to practice this idea of shake it out and talk it over. When we go for our rally walk, turn to somebody that you don't know. Share and ask, what's been a bit tough for you over the last couple of years? Listen to their story and then share yours. Then you can either shake it out together or you can even dance it out if you like, if you're not too embarrassed. But I'm guessing that most freedom fighters at this stage aren't too concerned about what other people think of them. Or by permission, ask and receive a hug. Check in with yourself and see how you feel. This practice of being seen and heard and doing the same for someone else is something we can do in our everyday life, even with a complete stranger. Because let's not forget that our friends always started out as strangers. And remember, next time you want to isolate from a hard day, don't allow a new addiction to surface. Stand up, shake it out, talk to someone. Because next to connecting and trusting God, our connection and our community is the best thing for our emotional immunity. And finally, here's your last call to action. That person you just got connected to on the walk, with permission, get their phone number. Write their first name in your phone, and just so you don't forget whose number it is, for the last name, write the word freedom, because our last names in this family are all the same.
I felt like I just made a deal with the devil. But I also felt like I was strong enough and I was in good enough shape and I was going to hope and pray for the best. Within hours, the pain began radiating and my legs were severely cramping. That night, I was shaking uncontrollably and sweating profusely. Over the next few days, chronic fatigue set in and my eyesight was becoming increasingly blurred. 2 days post-jab, I tried doing push-ups and I could barely do one. Days earlier, I was able to do 70, no problem. 2 weeks post-jab, I tried to do my regular stair routine. I could barely do 20. Days earlier in 30-degree heat, I was able to do 6 flights of 200 steps and intersperse 400 push-ups. This physical drain on my system was damn scary. Each day, my breathing was becoming more and more labored, to the point where I felt like I was carrying a 20-pound weight around on my chest everywhere that I went. I had never thought about how sacred each breath was. 1 month post-vax, I met again with my doctor, the same one that encouraged me to inject that poison. I recall thinking, isn't this ironic that this same person, this healthcare provider, that I'm going to her to find out what the hell this Pfizer shot had done to me. Only now, she had no answers. I did not ask for this vaccine. I did not ask to be so sick that I cannot work. I did not ask to be the target of incendiary, hateful rhetoric from our Prime Minister and his sheep. And neither did you. I never imagined that I would be here today trying in some small way to put a face to the millions that have suffered severe adverse reactions to this mystery juice that fills those needles. And I definitely did not choose to fill my days going to various medical facilities, searching for just how severe the damage is to my heart, to my lungs, to my brain, to my eyes, to my immune system, and if and where the clotting is wreaking havoc within me. My doctor refuses to admit that what now ails me comes from this vaccine.
He's a liar!
Absolutely. After sharing the news 4 weeks ago that I now have ischemic heart disease, I'm also being told it's merely a coincidence that all these new ailments came in the days following the jab. Just a coincidence. So yeah, I didn't choose this, but the vaccine chose me. I have no idea what they will find inside me, or indeed how long I might have to live. But what I do know is that I've been gifted this day, and that I woke up, when I woke this morning, I had this voice to share, and this voice will not be silenced. So I've been damaged in so many ways, and we're all being damaged by big pharma and big business and big government and by mainstream media and by a corrupt healthcare system that has somehow taken health and care out of the equation and replaced it with poison.
It never did. It never was.
Most of you here have already been awoken, and I'm very honored to be amongst your ranks. What unites us is that we simply want to maintain the freedoms that we were born into, and especially the freedom to have sovereign authority over what we allow into our bodies. We need to continue to unite, to shed light on this darkness and this deception that has been dividing our families and our friendships and our neighborhoods and our businesses over these past 22 months. We must do all we can to build the bridges back that will bring our fractured society back together. But we must also never forget the people and the institutions that have so callously tried to destroy everything that was once great about this country. We gotta ask ourselves, and those who seem to be sleepwalking within the herd, why? Why has all this transpired for a virus with a 99.97% survival rate? On the AHS website, using data that even Dr. Dina Hinshaw is having trouble trusting, numbers show that there's been 3,100 COVID-related deaths amongst 4.5 million Albertans. Even if we assume that these numbers are remotely accurate, simple math shows that here on this soil, we have a 99.93% survival rate. For this flu, economies have been decimated, freedoms have been infringed upon, and our children are being abused mentally and emotionally in ways that will only present themselves in years and decades to come. But fear not, Pfizer will have an array of new pills for this new breed of lifelong customers. And this is sickening. We should all be sickened. In my family alone, my 16-year-old became an addict as drugs became his escape from the hopelessness he felt around him. 2 months ago, my 15-year-old daughter attempted suicide twice. It's kind of emotional. We almost lost her. And what we learned as we fought for her life was that it would take 5 to 10 days to get her into the first available bed. Not just in that facility, but in any hospital in the entire city. And at the same time, at the same hospital, my good friend spent 2 weeks in the COVID unit where there were 5 people there during his entire 2-week stay. So yes, there is a pandemic that's happening, but it's not the one being broadcast to us day and night. The true pandemic is the mental and emotional turmoil that is infesting our most vulnerable. Not the average 80-year-old with 3+ comorbidities that were vulnerable before all this started. No, the most vulnerable are our youth and those that are being othered by our governments. My eyes have been opened while my heart has been damaged. And all that I ask is that each of you continue to rise up and shine your light. Don't be just another voice in the crowd, because the world right now really needs your voices. Rise up, Calgary. Rise with me so that we can ensure that history never repeats this evil again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, that was very powerful. It's really critical that everyone here spreads the message that this is an inclusive movement. We are welcoming to everybody. We understand there are people like Mark that have taken these jabs before they woke up and understood what's going on. Our job is to unite humanity. They're doing everything in their power to keep us divided. So we're going to not allow them to do that. We have one final announcement here from a student from our U of C group from the University of Calgary. He'd like to come up and make an announcement. Please welcome Fred.
Hey everybody, how's it going? It's great to be back up here. My name is Fred Albrechtson. I first spoke out at a rally way back in September, and now I'm back. So I'm a student at the University of Calgary. I'm a part of a pretty big movement right now. We're Canadian Students United. And there's a lot of us now that, as of a few days ago, we've been kicked out of our classes in person. Well, actually, they're still online. They're still online and we've been kicked out.
What?
So there's a lot of us students right now with a lot of time on our hands, and we're all trying to figure out ways that we can sort of give back to the community and help out and unite everybody. So there's a few things that I'm a part of. One is we recently started a podcast. It's on most streaming networks, and we're trying to talk against the mainstream narrative. We're trying to look at it from a critical aspect. It's called Canadian Campus Cast. It'd be great if you guys go check that out. We have some amazing guests coming on with some amazing stories, so please go check that out. Now, something also that I've recently gotten involved with is, well, okay, so I'm a competitive cross-country ski racer. I've always been a big athlete. Woo! You know, sports played a huge role in my life growing up. My parents threw me at pretty much every sport they could find, and I've really found that that's helped develop me and everything that I am. And it hurts me so bad to see now that youth are not being able to participate, that they're being forced out of sport.
Yeah.
Sport is a collective subject. It helps us find ourselves. You know, it promotes good health. It shows us who we are. It really proves our identity, and it's a way to socialize.
Yeah.
And now youth of all age groups, they're missing out on that.
Yeah.
Even though we should be opening more gyms, we should be creating more programs to get people active. And so what I'm in the midst of working on right now, I'm trying to get an athletes program going for youth. We really don't have any logistics or anything yet. We're just trying to see if there's interest or anything. We do hope to transition to be inclusive of all ages, of everybody out there, but right now we just really need to focus on youth. And just to bring everybody back together, regardless of your vaccination status, regardless of your background, regardless of your age, regardless of your sex, we all want to come together and just play some sports, you know, whether that be maybe going for a run, maybe going for skating, maybe skiing, you know, who knows. It's going to be dependent on resources and everything. And so if anybody's interested, please come and talk to me. It would be so amazing if you want to come help out, you want to get your kids involved, you want to facilitate, or you want to participate, please come talk to me, because I need you to help me make it happen. Thank you guys so much. It's been great seeing so many faces out here once again. Woo!
Thank you. All right. So that's it for speaking. I just have a couple announcements. Tomorrow, there's a group in Airdrie now. They're doing rallies on Sundays from 1 to 3 p.m. By the Co-op on Yankee Valley Boulevard. Every Monday, 4 o'clock in Mission on the corner of Elbow and 4th Street, there's a rally there on the corner. And every Thursday, we've been doing Without Papers Pizza in Inglewood. A lot of you have been there from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Thursdays. It's in Inglewood, 9th Avenue, 11th Street. And of course, next Saturday is the Worldwide Rally for Freedom. So be number 6. Number 6, we're gonna do it over at Central Memorial Park because we're expecting a much bigger turnout than this, so we need the space. And we also want to do the walk down 17th Avenue for the Freedom Mile. So please get everybody out that you can. That's going to be Central Memorial Park next Saturday, 1 o'clock. 180 cities all over the world are going to be rallying together on Saturday. Some are doing it on Sunday as well. There's a huge march in Washington, D.C. on the 23rd, being led by Dr. Robert Malone. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on, guys. 2022 is our year. We're going to see things escalate here over the next little while. And there's also truckers are organizing. They're going to be doing convoys as well. So please go to Calgary Freedom Central just to keep up to date on all these events and come out and support. There's signs here along the bottom here donated by the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms. If you want a sign, you can take it, you can keep it, take it home, bring it with you to the next rally. Okay, today for the walk, there's a crane on Stephen Avenue here right now, so the police are going to guide us around Olympic Plaza, and then we'll get onto Stephen Avenue on the other side of Olympic Plaza. Please allow us 5 minutes here. We're going to, before we start the walk, just so we can take down really quickly. Thank you very much, everybody.
My mom's cousin.
Hey, thank you. Did you stop it? No?